Hi everybody, this is my 55-gallon gourami tank, and I'm in the middle of a water change right now. I just switched the water flow back into the tank, so we're now filling it back up. I do have well water that goes through a treatment system, so I don't have to worry about chlorine or anything like that. I can just run the water straight from my tap right into the tank with no problem. So while it's filling, we're going to have a little bit of a chat about nitrates in the tank. I did check the nitrates in this tank, and you can see they're pretty red. I'm definitely calling that over 40 parts per million. We're probably between 60 and 80, somewhere up in there. It's been quite a while since I've done a water change on this tank. But every time I post a video about testing for nitrates, well, not every time, but it's fairly common for me to get comments about either how often people do test for nitrates, or how often do I test for nitrates, or, is it necessary, and so on and so forth. So what I really want to talk about is why and when I test for nitrates. Generally speaking, if I did not have a YouTube channel, I would not check for nitrates very often. There's simply no need to. I would do it from time to time just to kind of keep an eye on what's going on in the tank. But for the most part, if you're doing water changes on any kind of regular basis, if you feed on any kind of normal basis and you don't have any major changes happening in your tank, it's really just something you can do from time to time if you even want to. There's plenty of people that don't do it at all. Now, I don't have that personality. I like to know what's going on in my tanks. I like to check for this, that, and the other thing. I check for all kinds of stuff. But I only do it periodically, and I only do it just to sort of keep an idea on what's going on in the tank. As far as me actually checking for nitrates and how often I do it and how often you'll see me showing you that vial, remember, I do have a YouTube channel, and I am trying to share information with people, and I know that every time I post another video and every time I show you a vial that's that red, there's some up-and-coming new fish keeper out there that breathes a sigh of relief that their fish aren't going to die because they've got a vial that looks that red when they check their nitrates too. And yet everybody keeps telling them that that's going to kill their fish or something. And I'm able to dispel a little bit of that. I'm really interested in the way the color changes are starting to happen in these coolie loaches. One of the ones that is in my quarantine tank right now, I'm actually prepping the tank, getting them ready to come over here. One of the ones in my quarantine tank turned really pale like that. But now it's starting to get sort of brown blotches on it, very similar to what we just saw on that one, although it's more pronounced on the one that's in my quarantine tank. So it'll be interesting to see what's going to happen when that one gets over here. But at any rate, I do have a YouTube channel. I do have, videos to put out there. I'm trying to share information, share my experiences. And so by doing that, I'm able to visually show people this red vial, and I can, share my experiences in that way. It's also something to talk about. It's a topic of video to put out there. Keep in mind, I try to put out a video every day, and when I'm doing a water change, hey, if I can do a nitrate test, and then we can talk about that a little bit, it gives me a topic of conversation. So there's a lot of reasons why I might check for nitrates as frequently as I do. But as far as why you would need to check for nitrates very frequently, that's a different story, and that's something that I don't think is any major concern. If it's something you want to do just to keep an eye on your tank and keep an eye on what's going on, generally that's all the nitrates are really going to give you an indication of anyway. When you see that vial starting to get red and it's indicating that it's time for a water change, it's not so much that the nitrates themselves are posing any great risk or threat to your fish. It's more just sort of a proxy indicator. If the nitrates are getting up there and the vial's starting to turn red from nitrates, well, that means some time has been passing, and the redux potential in your tank is changing. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. Over time, you need to remineralize the water. It's just good to do water changes from time to time. It's good to get some bacteria out of the tank that might be building up. If your pH is slowly shifting over time, these are all things that are not as easy to check for as just checking your nitrates. And when you see the nitrates are getting up there, it's just a good indicator that, all right, it's time to do a water change. Again, it's not necessarily that the nitrates themselves are going to be any kind of terrible stress on your fish. But it is a good sort of proxy indicator to go by. And so if you want to use that as a way to check, don't worry about doing water changes until you see that vial starting to get red. That's something you can do. But again, it's not something that really needs to be done on any kind of regular basis. If there's anything you want to check on a regular basis, I would be much more concerned about checking your pH on a regular basis, because that's something that really will shift over time, and that's something that really can affect your fish over time. Check your water's hardness. That can shift over time. Check the carbonate hardness. Those are the kind of things that you can be worried about checking if you really feel that it's necessary to, sit on your tank like a mother hen. Those types of tests are more important than checking for your nitrates. Your nitrates is just sort of that general proxy indicator. The vial's starting to get red, probably time to do a water change, and there you go. So again, the reason I do so many nitrate tests is a little different because of having the YouTube channel here. If it was just me on my own, I would probably have to replace my nitrate test kit every 3 years or something. I would do tests probably that infrequently, and that's including all the tanks I have. So again, I don't really feel a need to check for nitrates very often. So one more time for that school of tetras to go by. I just love watching them go by in a group like that. I really do like the black skirt tetras. I think they're a very underrated fish in the aquarium hobby. So there you go. Tank's getting ready to be topped off. There's my last pass. I was hoping they'd make one more swim back to the other end of the tank. So I'm going to go. Thanks for watching. Make sure you're subscribed. And don't forget, this one is my 55-gallon gourami tank. So thanks again. I'll see you real soon in the next one.